My name is Zavai. I'm a seven-figure paper lead agency owner. I'm Chinese and a tiny bit autistic, which is really good for media buying. But I'm gonna be the first one in the space to share some of my losses actually in paper lead, and specifically what I've learned over the last 3 months being in the business loan vertical, right? Which is actually one of the best verticals to be in. So hopefully some of you won't repeat the same mistakes I did. Now let's dive into it because we're going to be sharing everything from our disposition sheet to our financials to what kind of mistakes I did, right? Because essentially how a disposition sheet looks like, if you can take a look right here, it's basically you get a set of data of the client, right? What kind of qualification they have, and specifically you get like their status, like like are they like duplicates? Are they basically did they already provide the bank information? Were they exhausted? Were they like not closed, right? And then you get their status as well. For this company that we're working with, they actually have a custom CRM, right? Because they have like 100 call center and they're spending like millions a month on ads. And they're actually sending their biggest buyers maybe like 300-400 grand a month, right? We're one of the smaller ones that just started out with them a few months back. And one of the things in paper lead that's like a bit different than retainer is that you're trying to build like long-term relationships as opposed to like churn and burn in retainer. It's really hard to keep local businesses as clients, as you would probably know, because of like different market situations, right? You cannot provide, they have a bad month and they just drop you. Whereas with these corporate companies, right, they have a bit more leeway. And if you still have like decent return on investment with them, they're gonna send you money until they go bankrupt, basically. And some of my friends who've been in this industry had clients for over 4 years, right? And the lifetime value of such corporate clients will be probably not even joking 100 times are larger than working with local businesses. And specifically in this case, right, we want to build it up because they're actually a really good buyer, even though their speed to lead and sales infrastructure is not the best because they have like they're not reaching the customers or the leads fast enough. Speed to lead has the highest impact on how high your conversion rate is. That means how many of the leads we send them convert into a single customer. Now, specifically for this client, right, they're paying us like 100 a lead. And so you see that some are not accepted because they're duplicate leads. Now, this is a single factor you need to take into account when going into a new client relationship because you need to figure out what their duplication lead is and if a duplication rate is and if they have a suppression is. Because if they have even 1 out of 10 that is a duplicate lead, then it's going to impact your cost as well to a very large extent. And a suppression list is essentially what you put into Meta to make sure that the duplicates, that Meta does not target the duplicates and that you won't get the people as leads in that suppression list, right? So now that we've gone through this, we basically this is how a disposition sheet looks for you beginners, and you can basically take that and use Claude to do some really heavy analysis on it, and we'll talk about it a bit later down the line. But specifically, right, I made this beautiful ass presentation with Claude, and our revenue was like 131 grand of the last 3 months. Net profit 24, and this month we've actually lost 10 grand on this deal, which is like it hurts obviously a bit, but with the mindset in paper lead is because you're gonna be making a lot and losing a lot, right? That's just inevitable. The people that made the most I've talked to, they've lost insane amounts as well. So specifically, right, mindset is like always, you paid 10 grand for this lesson, so better just like adapt to it. Now specifically, we had our best month in March because the market wasn't as saturated. There's this one buyer in our like industry that's like spending 95% of the ads, right? And their pixel is getting really, really good. What the pixel is essentially is the meta pixel, because Meta essentially is a data platform, right? So it means that they're sending information back to Meta, and Meta uses that information to get you cheaper leads at a higher quality. So the pixel is super important, and I've made the most in-depth guide on the internet actually on how to set up your Meta business infrastructure in a way to gain leverage over a long term and to protect it from ad restrictions and bans, right? So go check it out. And I even have a SOP template in that video. Now, specifically, right now, right, like we did great ads here, 50% margins, and then same ads, but got saturated a bit, right? And the buyers paid a bit less. And this month we actually went into our cost because I didn't really care, which is not good. I checked like twice. But even though, like this is like one of our smaller verticals and it doesn't really counts for less than 5% of profit, we still want to make sure that everything is like aligned, right? Because right now you don't want to be losing 10 grand. And what was really like would really tick me off is specific, obviously we lost money by not just like making better ads and adapting, right? So in that case, what I would do better is to have somebody build an automation that messages me instantly once a daily cost per lead goes over the threshold where it's not more profitable, or a certain like where you think it's way too high, right? So a notification like that needs to be set up. And right now, what we didn't account for is that we were paying off the duplicates that we had in April and March. So we paid like 6-7 grand in duplicates that we had in April and March, and I was like too lazy to to freaking update my suppression list. So you should put that into the SOP. Let your VA do it like once a week. Or twice a week, right, to update your suppression list. Now, what you can ask for the advanced companies, the bigger ones, for advanced like a dynamic suppression list. What that essentially is it updates itself, so you don't need to update your suppression list, right? That keeps you from getting duplicates in Meta anymore. So that's also a tip I would have for you guys, to not avoid stuff like that. And aside from that, you basically want, how it looks like on the back end is we have like three different buyers, each paying us different amounts, right? Buyer A is paying us like the most, buyer B is like 70, and buyer C is like 80. So we have it on a back end set up in a way where buyer A is the priority, right? Buyer B is like the second priority, and buyer C is the last priority. So all of our leads gets first sent to buyer A, and then buyer B, and then buyer C. And you can use lead prosper, right, to and leads hook. This combination you can make for advanced routing, to send different qualifications to different buyers, or set up the priority in a case, right? And this is like the technical stuff that's a bit more advanced than retainers. But once you learn it, right, nowadays you can just use Grok for it. And I would hire an Indian developer to also manage that for every single month. And you can pay them like 500 to like $1,000, which is good money in India. Now, specifically, how it looks like, right, is we have Facebook ads set up. We have one funnel, one website that we took like 2 hours to design, right? That we've been using for the last few months. And basically, on that back end, we have Leads Hook and Lead Prosper. Leads Hook is essentially the form on our website that basically captures the customer information, and based on what they click on Leads Hook, that gets sent out to different buyers. And Lead Prosper essentially does the sorting and the sending and making sure which priority, which buyer has which priority. And each buyer may also have limits as to how much they want to buy, right? Maybe buyer A wants to only get like 10 leads a day. So it's a lot of advanced like mechanisms in Lead Prosper that you need to figure out, right? And specifically, you can also join our school course. We're gonna have something online about that as well in the next upcoming weeks. And specifically, this is like kind of the back end that's a bit more complicated, right? But once you get it right, it is essentially the most scalable model on the internet, because the main like the companies that are listed on the Nasdaq that are pulling above 100 million in profit are all pay per lead companies and set up in this way, because it's just one funnel with infinite scalability potential. Now, specifically, what we're going to keep on, right? Another mistake we made is that we had way too many questions on the funnel. So we're going to cut that down, have a shorter, more like, you need only the questions that you have that are priority for your customers, right? You don't want to have excessive questions, because every question you add is going to cost you more money. So essentially, we have a different funnel setup now that's a bit more on the creative approach and differentiates us from, the whole market. But So that's gonna that like this month we started out as our best month, so that make a huge difference, and we ran better ads. And specifically, we also made data analysis of the last free months, and that's super important and super easy to do in Claude, right? I would recommend setting an automation that does it on a monthly or bi-weekly basis, or every 2 weeks, because then you can see which leads, what kind of leads converted into customers the most. For us in this case, roofers and builders converted the best, right? And the underlying mechanism for that is because they need a lot of cash flow, right? They are cash flow heavy business. They need like to pay for supplies, raw materials, hiring people and stuff like that. And specifically, we also found out that they made a really good customer for business lenders because they have fixed assets, right? They have stuff that the business lenders can leverage against. So for instance, if they cannot pay their loans, the business lenders just going to take their equipment, right, and sell it off so they can not lose out on the money. And business lending is a lot about mitigation, and and builders are a good ICP for them, ideal customer profile. Now, for the profitable market right now, right, it is still a profitable market, but not one of the best, because obviously when somebody's spending so much money, it does make the media buying a bit harder. But all in all, it was still pretty good because every month I may spend like 2 to 3 hours, maybe like five or something, right, to manage everything, right? So paper lead is really not that time intensive once you get it dialed in. And I have guys who spend like 300 grand a month and they check it like 10 minutes a day. So that's why the model is also so scalable, because it does not require a lot of services. I don't talk to my clients. There's no client communication. I just email them, right? How efficient is that, as opposed to when I was in the local retainer business and people called me like 3 times about a $700 website that like had one issue. And it just like ticks you off. But I have respect for all you guys in retainer, but maybe paper lead, maybe a better use of your existence and life. And now, what basically those were kind of the mistakes we made. And specifically now we're just setting up systems to actually monitor it better and to run better ads, because we can scale it up. These companies basically can scale up to 500 grand if the return on investment is there, right? And why roofers are the best customers. You can also take a screenshot. And basically, that's kind of the back end that I've learned from these 3 months. And I hope it was useful to you guys.